Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
I used to say San Diego runs on two things, sunshine and sirens. The sun is the postcard, easy, predictable, the kind of light that makes tourists believe in second homes. The sirens are the truth, heartbeats skipping, kitchen smoking, the wind deciding today's the day for a brush fire. My name's Jake Morales. I'm 39, a firefighter at Station 18. I can coil a line blindfolded, pop a door without hurting the paint, and tell what's burning by the color of the smoke. For a living, I walk into rooms everyone else is leaving. I believed in one more thing the way I believe in water pressure. My wife, Haley. She's an ER nurse, a good one, the kind who can make a terrified kid laugh while starting in 4. At parties we'd stand by the deviled eggs and get introduced like a public service announcement. Jake runs into fires, Haley runs into chaos, someone would say. People clapped with their eyebrows. We'd make a joke about scrubs and turnout gear and the way both ruin your laundry. I believed we were a holy union, like Street. Florian married Florence Nightingale and had a mortgage. If you ask firefighters to describe our marriage, they'll say, a team. We had rhythms. She worked nights, I worked 24s. She'd leave sticky notes, coffee's hot, don't forget boots and dryer, you promised to call my mom, and I'd send memes at 3 a.m. When the world felt slanted and the only light in the city was hospital fluorescence and the moon. On my days off, I cooked, because I'm a firefighter and we measure love in cast iron, huevos on the Blackstone, fish tacos that made the dog stare like she saw God, pozole on cold nights, which in San Diego is anything below 60. The first crack was not a plate thrown, not a dramatic midnight confession. It was static. Haley got irritable the way some people get seasonal allergies. Can you not put your jacket there? Can you not breathe like that when you brush your teeth? She started throwing up a new word, decompress. She'd finish a 12 in the ER and need nothing. No stories. No laughter. No me. I told myself not to take it personally, because ER nights can scrape the inside of your skull. But irritability is one thing. Evasion is another. I'd ask, how was your shift? And get fine. I'd say, wanna surf tomorrow? And get I've got a thing. I didn't push. You can't force open a door without checking the hinges. One Friday in July, after a day that smelled like eucalyptus and diesel, I walked down to Ocean Beach. That's what I do when my head needs a rinse, sit on the seawall, let the wind sandblast my thoughts, watch dogs cheat the leash law. I was late getting off because a lightning strike had turned a canyon into a bad idea. I texted Haley, home in an hour. You up? No. Appeared. Not unusual. I breathed. The sky did the Sherbet thing it does here, like God blended peaches and berries. I looked down at my phone, opened a local food blog to read their list of top 10 tacos, by people who don't live here, then looked up, and there she was. Not a ghost. Not a look-alike. Haley, in a sundress I liked, sitting on the patio of a restaurant we said was too fancy for us, laughing in a way she hadn't at home in months. Across from her, Drive. Price, the handsome ER attending with the perfect hair and the walk like he'd invented hallways. He leaned in. She leaned in. Their body language was fluid. I felt two things at once, heat and smallness. Heat because my body thought we were in a fire. Smallness because I suddenly realized I had written a story in my head where I was the hero and forgot to check if anyone else had read it. I didn't storm over. That's not my style. I am professionally trained not to make a bad scene worse. I watched long enough to be certain, which took 20 seconds and also the rest of my life. I walked home along the ocean, the kind of walk where you count the breaths and the waves and the lies you've told yourself. When I asked her about it the next morning, I did it like a patient with his own bandage. We were in the kitchen. The dog was pretending she didn't know the counter existed. I saw you last night, I said. At Loma Vista. With Price. Haley didn't blink. She did the nurse thing, flat effect, measured voice. We had dinner. You laughed at dinner, I said, which is not a crime, just a symptom. She set down her mug carefully, like emotion spill. Jake, she said, I'm tired of pretending. I don't want to be the wife of a simple firefighter. The simple slid out like she'd practiced it. I want a life that isn't built around you running toward danger and then being a hero about it. I want more. More than me? I asked, because I am not only a man but a cliché. More than this, she said, sweeping her hand at our kitchen, which contained the best coffee beans in the city and a plant that refused to die and a magnet shaped like a hydrant. I'm done apologizing for wanting something else. Something else named Daniel Price? I asked. Her jaw tightened. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Then she said the sentence that emptied the house. I don't want to be married to a firefighter. It's not enough. There are phrases you can't triage. You just let them pass through you and see what's left. I grabbed my keys, walked down to the beach, and sat on the rocks where the kids jump after they promise their mothers they won't. The ocean didn't care. It kept forgetting and remembering itself in waves. I stared at the horizon until the horizon stared back. Everything felt loud and far away at the same time. I thought about the people I'd pulled out of cars, homes, a cliff. I thought about Haley with her hand on someone else's table. I thought about the fact that I could talk a neighbor out of re-entering a burning apartment for a cat, but I couldn't talk my wife into loving me. Night fell. I sat until it was old. A teenager offered me a gummy with compassion. I said no, with gratitude. I walked home with sand in my shoes and salt on my face and the kind of clarity that hurts. The line showed up in my brain like a banner under a helicopter, I save lives, time to save mine. I didn't become a different person. I became myself with a checklist. The next morning, I texted Marco, a paramedic from our usual hospital, a friend, the kind you make at 3 a.m. While both of you stare at a trauma bay like it's a math problem with too many variables. Marco is funny in a way that scares sadness. He's also careful, I've seen him hold secrets like he's checking a pulse. Need to talk, I wrote. Not as a firefighter. He met me at a diner that tastes like 1978 and listened while I put my marriage on the table between pancakes and hot sauce. He didn't say I told you so because he's not a jerk. He said, I'm sorry, hermano, and meant it. What do you need? I need to stop feeling crazy, I said. I need to know if what I saw is what it is. And if they're doing it at work, on duty, on hospital time, then that's not just my problem. He nodded slowly. We do this right, he said. No cowboy stuff. No hacking. You don't put me or anyone in a position to break HIPAA. But there are things that are not patient info, schedules, policy, badge logs. HR stuff. If you have a legitimate complaint about staff behavior, there's a channel. I don't want to ruin her, I said. I want my life back. Those are not always opposites, he said. We made a plan that sounded like paperwork because it was. I collected what I could legally access, texts from Haley's phone to mine where she had mentioned late charting with D.P. and debrief after codes, multiple nights a week. Calendar invites that moved like a tide chart whenever Price's shifts changed. Social media posts where they were tagged at the same charity run, leaving together. None of it was a smoking gun, all of it was smoke. Marco, for his part, pointed me at policies anyone could read. The hospital's code of conduct said what you think it says, no relationships that create conflicts, no using work hours for personal rendezvous, no retaliation against staff who report policy violations in good faith. He also told me about badge access logs. When an employee uses their ID card to enter controlled spaces, it leaves a timestamped line in a database. Those logs are how a hospital knows who went where when something went wrong. They are not secret, they are security. Don't ask me for patient charts, he said. Don't want them. Don't need them. You stick to patterns, not gossip. I did. I wrote a timeline. I listed dates and times, Haley's charting aligning with Price's paperwork, both in a private staff lounge that closes at 11, this happening at 11:30, 12:10, 1:05. I added observation, not conclusion. I pulled their public social media, where caution had taken the night off, a selfie at a restaurant I had seen with my own eyes, a photo of a late-night coffee where their reflections tried to hide in a window, a tag from a coworker who thought she was capturing a cute moment and instead captured my life. 2 weeks after Ocean Night, Haley dropped her certainty on me like a piano. Everything stays inside the hospital, she said over breakfast, stirring oatmeal like it had wronged her. You won't do anything, Jake. They protect their own. I protect my own. This is bigger than you. Nothing is bigger than me in my own life, I said. That was the problem, actually. She smirked, which hurts worse than yelling. You won't ruin a nurse. You worship nurses. I respect nurses, I said. And codes. Both kinds. She took her bull and went to work. I looked at the dog. The dog looked at me. We agreed we were not crazy. The next day I asked for a meeting with the hospital's HR. I wrote an email like a complaint and a prayer. Subject, Good Faith Report re, Staff Conduct and Policy. In the body, I wrote what I was and what I wasn't. I was a spouse, a firefighter, a person who knows the smell of cover-ups, literal and figurative. I wasn't asking them to adjudicate my marriage. I was asking them to protect the hospital from itself. HR scheduled me faster than I expected, which is either a sign of efficiency or fear. The director, a woman with glasses that said I have read your policy and your mind, sat with a compliance officer who had the posture of a man who knows where the skeletons are and prefers they stay in anatomy class. I brought the timeline. I brought the public posts. I brought printed pages of the policy with sentences underlined because underlining calms me down. I'm not here to punish, I said, hands steady because hose work teaches you that. I'm here to report what looks like a violation. If I'm wrong, I want to hear I'm wrong. If I'm right, that's your job. They asked good questions. Do you fear retaliation? Yes. Do you work with hospital staff? Yes, daily, and I have a good relationship, please don't torpedo it. Are you alleging patient harm? No. I am alleging misuse of time and space, conflict of interest, and ethical breaches that put your mission at risk. They thanked me. The compliance officer said, we will look into this. We appreciate the clarity. No one used the word affair, which I respected. We were speaking institution, not gossip. It took 3 weeks. Long enough for me to doubt, short enough for me to hold my breath. In that time, Haley moved through the house like a guest who didn't tip. She came home late and used words like safety and boundaries as bulletproof glass. I slept at the station more than my schedule required because the bunks there smell like sweat and trust. I ran drills. I cleaned hoses no one asked me to clean. I watched the sun hit the bay door at 6 and believed in that light more than I believed in anything else. The hospital called me in on a Tuesday when the marine layer makes the whole city doubt itself. The HR director had a folder. The compliance officer had a face like bad news delivered politely. Mr. Morales, she said, we conducted a thorough investigation into the concerns you raised. We reviewed access logs, schedules, and staff interviews. We substantiated multiple violations of our code of conduct by both employees. We are proceeding with disciplinary action, including reporting to the state licensing boards. I sat back, air leaving my lungs like the end of a call. You're saying? We are saying, the compliance officer said, this is serious. And we're treating it as such. I did not cheer. I did not ask for details. I thanked them, because professionalism is a lifeline in rough water. I walked to my truck and sat with my hands on the steering wheel and cried a little in that quiet way men who run into fires cry when they are finally safe. The hospital did hospital things, letters, hearings, notices. Haley found out before I did, of course. She came home with the fury of a person who miscalculated the size of the world. You did this, she said, as if I'd invented consequences. You destroyed my career. No, I said softly. You risked it. I reported it. They won't pull our licenses, she said, but it wasn't a sentence, it was a wish. They did. It took a process, lawyers, testimonies, phrases like ethical lapses and patient trust. But by fall, the state board had suspended the doctor's license and revoked Haley's for a period that, in her world, might as well be forever. There were appeals. There were posts. There were tears in bathrooms, hers, mine, who knows anymore. But the bottom line landed, a nurse who thinks she is above policy is not a nurse for long. If you're reading this hoping I celebrated, I didn't. You don't pop a bottle on someone's professional grave, even if they dug it. I grieved the version of us that wore capes and saved people. Then I did what I tell rookies on their first structure fire: control what you can control, the rest is weather. We divorced like a lot of Americans, with paperwork, with a division of items that once felt like ours and now had to choose a side. She left with boxes labeled kitchen, hers that included a pan I loved and a mug that was technically mine and didn't matter anymore. I kept the dog and the couch and the cast iron and the surfboard she said made me basic. I learned that basic is just another word for still here. What I had left, more than anything, was a lot of energy with nowhere to put it at 2 a.m. When you aren't texting a spouse, you start texting your city. I started volunteering more: wildland prep days, smoke alarm installs in apartment buildings where the landlord spelled code with a K. I did CPR trainings on Sundays for scout troops and grandmas who wanted to be dangerous in a good way. After one of those sessions, a kid raised his hand and said, "Do you have a school for this? Like, where we can be like you?" The sentence sat down with me like a friend. I thought about the looks I get when we roll up in the engine: little kids pretending their bikes are rigs, teenagers pretending they don't care when they care the most. I thought about the people in this city who want to help but don't know how and think heroism is a zip code. I thought about the nights I sat by the ocean pretending to be stone while the world built and broke itself. So I started a school. Not the tuition and a sweatshirt kind. A community training outfit, volunteer fire academy, pop-up style. We partnered with community centers and churches and, once the city figured out I wasn't trying to run a militia, the fire department itself. We taught basic fire behavior, hose handling, CPR, AED use, how to check a door with the back of your hand, how to plan a family escape route with kids who hide under beds. We made it official enough to impress moms but scrappy enough to feel like anyone could belong. The first night, 5 people came: a barista, a Lyft driver, 2 high schoolers, and a dad who wanted to be better than the dad he'd had. I showed them a hose line. I taught them to roll it like we roll burritos in this town, tight, with respect. Marco came and taught hemorrhage control like a magician who also cares about your fingers. We didn't make heroes. We made neighbors with skills. And neighbors with skills make a city. Word got out. An old captain dubbed me the fireman with honor one day, half teasing, because I would not stop preaching about codes and paperwork and how hero stuff is 5% of the job and the rest is being boring on purpose. The nickname stuck the way nicknames do. Teenagers started showing up wearing thrifted helmets. We made them leave those at the door, and left with certificates that made their grandparents cry. I kept my day job because I love my day job. Sirens still sing, eucalyptus still goes whoosh, kitchens still forget that oil is not a toy. But on off days, I'm in a gym teaching turnout drills with weighted vests that make accountants swear. Local news did a segment, Meet the Fireman with Honor, which made me cringe and also brought us a check from a donor who cried on the phone and said, "I lost someone because we didn't know what to do." People ask me sometimes if I forgive Haley. I don't have a simple answer. I don't carry around a grudge like a kettlebell. I don't carry around a blessing either. She made a choice. I made a different one. Our lives went where they had to. I hope she finds a way to do good again. I also hope she never again believes rules are for other people. Those hopes can live together without me being a saint. When rookies ride my engine, I tell them the truth: this job is 1,000 small obediences and a few big moments. The big moments get the t-shirts. The small obediences get people home. Marriage, as it turns out, is similar. I failed in some small obediences, I am sure. I also didn't deserve contempt for being ordinary. Ordinary is how most good things get made. I keep a routine that's half firefighter, half monk. Before shift, I brew coffee in a way my grandfather would recognize and my ex-wife would mock. I stretch like I'm older than I am. I text my mom. I check the board: apparatus okay, crew roster, weather, hot, dry, windy, the holy trinity of bad. After shift, if the ocean is friendly, I surf. I wipe the salt off my board and remember the night I sat on those rocks and decided I didn't have to burn to be warm. On my desk at the academy, a folding table with a laminated sign that says hydration is sexy. There's a photo: me, Marco, And our first class, faces red, smile stupid, a pile of rolled hose at our feet like the city's most boring trophy. Next to it is a note from a kid who could have been me 25 years ago. Thanks for teaching me not to be scared of fire. Or life. I taped it up next to the evacuation map because both are instructions I trust. People started calling me Fireman with honor on the street, which is embarrassing and beautiful. It keeps me honest. Honor isn't a thing you pin on your chest and forget. It's a thing you do when nobody's filming. It's showing up at a PTA night with a first aid kit and leaving with a volunteer list. It's teaching a grandma to use an AED and watching her stand up straighter. It's reporting a violation even when your own heart is on the gurney. Sometimes, early, I walk down to the seawall with the dog. The city stretches, yawns, decides not to rain. I sit where I sat the night the marriage ended and the rest of my life arrived. I watch the waves practice being themselves. The nickname floats by in my head, silly and heavy at once. I say it out loud like a dare and a promise, Fireman with honor. The dog tilts her head. Somewhere, a siren starts, and the city answers, which is all you can ask. If you're reading this because your own kitchen feels smaller than it used to or your own ocean feels too big, here's what I learned. Tell the truth, slowly. Write it down. Follow the rules so hard they become a shield. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. Believe that small obediences add up to a life. And when the worst happens, remember the line that saved me. You save lives, it's okay to save your own. The Academy's motto sits on the wall in vinyl letters straight enough to pass inspection. It's not fancy. It's the only one I could say without laughing or lying. Built to help. Built with honor. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.